GM. Thursday, 13th of May. Not May, June. A month behind. So we had positive ETF flows again yesterday. After a couple of negative days, 100 mil. No outflows from Grayscale. Not really. Nothing too much to read into there. The main thing is, price very clearly is not ready yet for a bullish impulse. And we saw that with a good CPI number, and then immediately after the FOMC meeting, straight back down. So a lot of flip-flopping of bias on the timeline, as people always tend to do around these events, when in reality nothing happened. We went up, cleared out some shorts with an initial squeeze, couldn't sustain price up there, wasn't enough demand, came all the way back down, cleared out the longs who FOMO'd in at the highs. That's all it is, and we're right back where we started on early Wednesday. So I mentioned this in chat last night or yesterday evening, mentioning something like this around the monthly open would be what I would expect to see next. So that's pretty much what we've seen so far. Initial bounce up, come back down, chop around here, dip below it, reclaim it, and then it can go towards that high. So for me, this needs to be given another few days. It's generally, after a move like this, you're going to see an equal amount of time required, or an equivalent amount of time, required for a reaccumulation. That was our volatility. That was it. It's gone. Done. Good luck. You can see also this as well in terms of Bitcoin's volatility. Bitcoin's volatility is on a one-way downward path, which is what's very typical of summer. And it's been grinding lower, and it's going to keep going lower. That is a very, very hard thing to reverse. So where are we at? Here we are at the monthly open, daily open. It's a different chart I've drawn. And the same principle applies until the red path is followed and we actually break lower, come back, retest, fail, or even maybe no retest, but until we break below those lows, nothing's bearish. Until we break above the highs cleanly, above 72, nothing bullish. And in between, it's just a choppy market, right? You've got the daily open from Monday, so that was the weekly open. Tuesday, so we tried to flip those levels, couldn't stay above the 2021 all-time high, back to the monthly open, chopping around there, and then yesterday, Wednesday's daily open, which is providing the support currently. This is just a chop market. Would not overly focus on it, would not overly trade around it, as people get themselves all caught up and spun up in knots, overthinking it and overplaying it. I go back to this volume area that I've been focusing on, or value area, volume profile. And for me, nothing has changed on this either. It's very simple. The darker shaded blue box remains Bitcoin's area of chop. If it's in there, it's just going to keep grinding around in there. When it starts to clear either side, and it couldn't, see during the CPI pump, it couldn't break above and it could not break below. Once it does, and you start to see actual consolidation in one of these areas for a period of time, that's when you're looking at bullish. Up there, if it starts to trend up there, I would expect it breaks out. If it goes down here and is unable to reclaim, as you can see, bulls are really trying to defend it right now. If it's unable to, you're going to see price fall lower. So that's Bitcoin. Nice and simple. ETH is weak and is now in the value area. So some great trade opportunities presented themselves on ETH. If you look here, and I want to show you, I will have a lesson coming about, I already have a lesson on volume profile, but I will have another lesson coming very soon on how to apply it. But the concept of the value area is the darker shaded zone, and that is the zone that it truly needs to break from. Right? When you draw ranges, you'll draw from the very, very high, like over here initially, and say, oh, there's the high, there's the low. That's true. But many times you guys mentioned to me, oh, sometimes, Michael, I see this, a high and a low, and then price starts to consolidate inside it. Is that a range inside that I can trade? No, generally, if you use volume profile, what that is a value area. You can see this. There's a high there, there's a low down here, but then ETH forms this tight consolidation in this area. What happens when it breaks below it? Retests it, fails, and then starts to break structure to the downside. It breaks out, goes lower. Then, if you zoom out from all this phase here, from the very top to the bottom, so in all of ETH's decline, I had drawn a value area, a volume profile, and a value area here. We have now fallen back into that. We are now below 3,500. ETH could not be more bearish in terms of the way volume setting up, key levels, the pivot of 3580. Every single possible price action signal on ETH has failed. Support didn't hold, 3580 didn't hold, the pivot, 3500 didn't hold, the value area above didn't hold, and we're now in the orange shaded value area below. Which, when you fall into that, typically, you try to break out, like here, tries to break out from one side of value area, can't go straight to the other side. Loses the value area, can't reclaim it, down. So what do we do here? We fell into the value area, tried to reclaim and break out, couldn't. And so my expectation for ETH is actually 3,200 is on the table. So that is just a technical price action, volume-based approach, right? That doesn't account for external factors such as ETH and ETF. But of course, the ETH ETF is one of the most overreacted pieces of information that we've seen. If you've been around, been trading for a while, if you've been watching the market in the past year and a half, you'll know that ETH is like the red-headed stepchild of crypto. Everyone fucking hates it. That's what people are online saying, right? Fuck ETH, you need Solana. Solana's way better. Bitcoin is the best. ETH is shit. Look at ETH, it's so slow. Nothing's going up. Everything else is outperforming it, right? That's been the narrative for ETH. And then yet, all of a sudden, when everyone's bearish ETH, and everybody was bearish ETH here, right? Bar, a very small number. Then the good news comes, boom, it pumps. But most people who are bearish ETH, they did not long here. They didn't long here. They didn't long here. After this, after the big pump, after it closed, after it was about 3,700, then they start to convince themselves, oh, guess we need ETH, and they start loading up on ETH. So what you're seeing now is really just a shakeout of those people, the latecomers, and it could go all the way back down to the impulse. I think if I had to put money on it, I don't think ETH goes quite all the way down there unless Bitcoin goes, towards 60, which Bitcoin definitely can, but currently it's not. I think what's probably more likely is that most of this gap fills, but not all of it. However, there is a beautiful tendency of these charts to fill their gaps before going on. And you see this over and over again. Pumped up in January. What did it do? Come all the way back, right down to where the pump began. And when we're talking about the pump began, it's 3K. Pump began here. 3K to 3,100. And it's funny, people always say, well, ETH can't go back there because it should be bullish with the ETF. I mean, it's pumped into what is a brutal lower high, super clear lower high, high, lower high. I mean, that price action perspective is bearish. But ETH's not bearish itself. Don't forget, it's all just in a consolidation. Everything from 2,800 to 4,100 is a consolidation. So if ETH does this, comes down, comes back up, down and up, and you zoom out, nothing was ever bearish. It didn't make a new low. Wasn't bullish right away. It didn't make a new high. It's just consolidation. Now, is it going to do that or going to do something different? I don't know, but it absolutely can make its way back down to those lows. And it depends on what Bitcoin's going to do as well, right? because Bitcoin still leads the market, regardless of what ETH's doing. And if BTC goes, just keep it simple. If Bitcoin goes to 60 or 62, which it can on a high time frame, ETH is going back here. I've no doubt. And if Bitcoin holds around 66, 67, ETH will just form a higher low in this area here. It won't quite fill all the gap because a lot of that was a genuine repricing, and it comes down and fills maybe part of it in. It maybe retests this old breakout point here, something like that. Maybe that's the extent of how far down you see it go. As for Solana, I think I have a Solana chart. I mean, Solana's broken any bullish uptrend that it had. Structurally, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere right now. It's actually doing what Ethereum is on track to do. So here's the 20th, or not the 20th, sorry, 15th of May, when it started to impulse higher. What did it do? It left behind a gap, moved up, came back, filled in the gap. There we are. As long as that's holding there, that's going to be the bottom for Solana. If it holds there, right? That's exactly where you'd expect it to come back to for reaccumulation purposes. If and this is where you want to keep these levels really simple. Let's just take that daily order block. Above that, Solana is fine. And you'll see it go higher. If it loses that and goes below and can't get above it, that's when you're looking at these lows. So there's Solana. At a key point, you want to give it a few days. The best possible setup you could see would be something like this, right, where it's getting above that diagonal. So it tries to break above it. Whenever it actually clears it and closes and is held at that level, you can consider that to be a higher low formed. But there's still work to do, lots of work to do. And we're in this summer phase where we might see prices go lower. So for the majors and really for the market, it's about patience. There's not really that much that's trending. Pepe and Ondo have decent setups, so I'll cover those on Trade of the Day. Otherwise, today, PPI, which is another inflation measure, is going to be dropping 12:30 UTC. Over here, Thursday, PPI, core PPI. Probably not a big mover of the market since we had CPI yesterday and the Fed talked anyway. And then that's about it for the week. Not a huge amount of market moving information from here. So keep an eye on PPI. There'll be a little bit of volatility maybe, but probably not a whole lot. GM.